introduction, and I am one of the hosts for this this event, CE2 Charlottesville Entrepreneurs of Espresso. It's an event that we've been proudly running since 2015, and as a matter of fact, one of the original organizers you're going to get to hear from today. And this event is run by 3 different organizations, CIC, Community Investment Collaborative, and the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, and CBIC, Charlottesville Business Innovation Center. You have to have a lot of acronyms to participate, apparently. And it sounds really echoey. How does it sound to you guys? Does it sound okay? Just really loud? Or I'm loud? Hello? Okay, well, I'll just turn them all down. I don't really know how to adjust beyond that. Okay, anyway, and then we have a couple sponsoring organizations. The Code-Based Co-working is one of them. They provide this space, which we're so appreciative of. Do you guys like this space? It's awesome. I know a lot of the Tom Festival is happening here this week. Also Watermark Design and the Batten Institute at UVA. And then we actually have Jaybird Coffee, not a sponsor, but we're grateful for a new coffee provider this month as well. But the way, raise your hand if this is your first time attending CE2. Cool. So glad to have you guys. We always would love to hear anyone that speaks from up here, me or Amanda, or Hannah or Shira. Let us know how you heard about the event so we can keep promoting with those methods, but also really happy to see so many returning faces. And so how this is run is we have 2 speakers each month. We have an early stage company, which shares about the company, and then we're gonna have an ask for the audience. So an ask for you to help them grow to the next level. And then we have a seasoned entrepreneur, which is gonna share their crash and learn stories, just lessons learned the hard way on their entrepreneurial journey. Today's gonna be really fun. So wanted to introduce our first speaker. We have Jake Spradling and Harvey Snook, and a little bit about them. I know Jake is a UVA grad, so that was kind of his original roots here in Charlottesville. He did do a short stint in Charlotte after graduating and then came back to UVA, kind of hooked up with some entrepreneurs here, and ultimately was able to connect with Harvey Snook. Harvey is so Jake has a background in basically web development, in web design, development, etc. But Harvey is a truck insurance expert, 30 years, very, very seasoned. And so the 2 of them, Harvey's came from Richmond, so he went to University of Richmond and is there now. So drove this morning to be with you all. But they've joined forces for CargoLabs, and really excited to hear just what they have going on and the problem that they're solving and how you guys can help them grow. So help me give a hand for Jake and Harvey.
Well, good morning. My name is Jake. This is Harvey. Together, we're the co-founders of CargoLabs. What CargoLabs is building is software to streamline the trucking insurance process. Before we really dive into what we're building, I'd like to provide a little bit of background on the industry. So freight doesn't move without insurance. And the most high-value commodities like nuclear fuel, semiconductors, wind turbine blades require additional insurance that tomatoes or vegetables and things don't require. And 90% of the truckers in the supply chain cannot haul this freight. They don't have enough insurance. So there's 2 types of freight. Low-value freight pays less. High-value freight pays more, but has additional insurance limits. Truckers could buy this insurance that's sold daily. But right now, these policies are big, cumbersome to produce, and only sold on an annual basis. Why is that? It's very slow, insecure, and expensive to produce these policies today. With CargoLabs, now it's fast, secure, and affordable. How it works, the trucker logs in, selects the coverage they want, they pay, and then they can pick up the higher paying freight. This is our team. I'm the coder, software engineer. Harvey's the insurance expert, as Philippe said a minute ago. We're working with over 20 insurance entities so far. That list continues to grow. We've got a few different competitors, but our largest competitor is now our biggest collaborator, as of about a year ago. We're operating in a huge industry, and just the U.S. trucking insurance market is about $7.5 billion in revenue per year for CargoLabs to generate. The ask, we're looking to do a quick demo after this and see if you guys can give us any user experience feedback or styling and design feedback. We're going to use that to improve our phase 1, which is moving vanilla JavaScript to Next.js. Next.js is easier to white label. As we can white label these buyer components, we open up additional revenue opportunities with these people out here. So, any questions?
Get more mics, hold on.
Okay.
So where are you in the revenue model? Do you have revenue?
We do.
Can you repeat the question too, just because
Where are we in the revenue model? So we have been conducting kind of a user proof with 75 of my clients, which are the trucking entities, not the freight brokerages. So that's kind of the tail end of the transaction. So out of that, we have 20 transactions, and it's mostly repeat users. So it's people that have dipped their toe in the system and then have decided that they really like it. So one of our problems with the freight market, one of our challenges, is to educate these freight brokers that because you've always worked around based on the fact that there's no solution, there's no insurance agent available at midnight, so you get a different kind of insurance policy that your boss tells you you have to use. We're offering a better solution. It's just that they've never heard of it, right? So our challenge is to educate that force of people out there that, hey, there's an alternative which offers you better insurance coverage, broader insurance coverage, more protection, and just give it a try. So that's kind of where we are. So we've dealt with my network of people who know and trust me, and it's been very, very well received. So we're now moving. We just completed our first onboard and transaction with an insurance agent out on the West Coast. And then we've just signed up our first freight brokerage, which is executing transactions that way in Raleigh, North Carolina.
This is all within the last 7 to 10 days. Yeah. And sort of going through this demo here, we can pick out a pickup location, a drop-off location. So let's say we pick up in Charlottesville, VA, and then we will drop off Charlotte, North Carolina. See. Okay, awesome. And then up here, we can select how much additional insurance we're looking to purchase. We can go up to $1 million of additional cargo insurance on top of our primary insurance limit, which here is normally 100,000 cargoes from most truckers have. And we're picking up on a move today, and then we're going to get 3 days of coverage. So we just go down here, we type in an email. I agree. We'll continue. And then this sends a request out to our API, which generates the price for this particular load. And then it's going to send back that price so we can check out here. Check out. And then this is where you can pay. I can't actually finish it because this is live once we have to actually pay this one.
Can you go back to that checkout screen where you show the bars at the bottom? So one of the things when you ask where we are in the number of transactions, one of the things that we found out in our product market fit cycle is that freight brokers, the checkout link, check it out. Sorry. Freight brokers are oftentimes filling out the paperwork on our digital purchase screen for the motor carrier who's not obviously located where they are. So the freight broker could pay and then take it out of the settlement for the motor carrier after they complete the transaction. They typically do this for trailer washes, tolls, things like that. But a lot of them wanted this checkout. So one of the learnings that we had in our product market fit kind of cycle was to find out that we need to have this push out link. And the real advantage and why we've got a lot of adoption recently is the truckers haven't been realizing that this is a tax write-off and it's an expense against their revenue. So with the push out link, suddenly there's an identification, oh, there's a receipt, so I can save these receipts and it's an expense that I can write off. So we've got a lot of adoption there, especially where, let's say I've got a large transformer company that's really using this. For years, they purchased an annual policy and the transformer company has kind of said, well, you're using this for a lot of other freight, not necessarily just us, so we don't want to reimburse you. But now with the checkout link, they're getting it and they're getting a receipt, so they're very comfortable in funding 100% of the added insurance that's required to take a large municipal transport.
So just,
Hello, people I have never met before. Just so I understand and maybe help others, let's say I'm a trucker and I cart broccoli. That's my thing. I'm a broccoli trucker. And I decide I want to do nuclear fuel rods. Like, can you just explain, I think it's more just a background understanding, but how do I go from broccoli to nuclear fuel? Do I just like, is that like a number I call and say, I'm up for it? And then they say, no, you can't do it because you don't have the insurance. And then I find you guys, or walk me through how the trucker who owns his own rig gets into the field. Because I think that's important to understand, because it seems like you would just get stuck. Again, I'm a broccoli guy. How do I become like the higher earning, more successful person using your tool?
Thank you for the softball.
Yeah, great question. So the way they do it today is, most truckers don't know, like you're saying, that they can haul anything other than broccoli or produce, these low value commodities. They just haven't had the opportunity to bid on this freight that pays them more money because they haven't had the insurance. Whenever they talk to the freight broker, like, yeah, I've got a load of nuclear fuel for you. Like, oh, great, I want it now. Pay me more money. Then the next step is, okay, let's get through the compliance process and make sure you do actually have enough insurance to haul this fuel. And that's when 90% of the truckers drop off if they don't. But with us, once we can break into that education gap, break down that gap so we can understand, oh, now we can actually haul this higher value commodities. I think that would be a seismic shift from where we are.
So where we are in what we're doing is we've created this system to be kind of plug and play. So Jake's had the foresight to be able to allow portals for different people in the process to use this to their advantage. One of those real necessary portals is where these guys get their freight. Your broccoli hauler, he'll likely get on what's called a load board. So you've got various software companies and companies that have those. The easiest one to explain is Uber Freight, right? So Uber Freight has a load board and they post thousands of loads all around the country so that truckers can pick that and make it easier for them to get where they want to go. That's the spot market, and that's really where we're living. What we've done is we've created our system so that we can integrate with Uber Freight, if you will, or the hundreds of load boards out there, and we'll live on their site so that if they need insurance, if a broccoli hauler wants to haul nuclear fuel rods unused, they're quite expensive, then they can buy up to $1 million additional cargo. In that vein, where we're unique, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay. In that vein, where we're unique is we've also created a way to integrate insured contracts that go hand in glove with our insurance product. And this is where we're going to get a whole lot of adoption in that, in our litigious world and with social inflation, more and more risk managers are protecting themselves from upstream liability. So the shippers, I write a very large carrier that is attractive for trial attorneys, and they haul primarily Home Depot product, which is attractive for trial attorneys. In Florida, which is attractive for trial attorneys. So in that world, the risk manager at Home Depot, for example, will be looking to push protection down contractually to the motor carrier or the freight broker and then the motor carrier. So what we've done is we've created the ability to push out insured contracts, which because of insurance law, give coverage to the freight broker and to the shipper immediately within 40 seconds while they're buying, for instance, general liability insurance. Or if they're going to be using a piece of equipment and they use what's called trailer interchange, then we can complete a trailer interchange agreement at the same time, which gives them insured contract status and protection. It also, by the way, is a trigger for coverage under a trailer that may be in somebody else's care, custody, and control. So we're going to position ourselves to where the goal is to where we're the go-to on every transaction. we've got a situation where there's a lot of, with digital issuance of freight, there's a lot of bad actors out there that may take a load, pretend to be a broker, give it to a trucker. The load is then delivered. The shipper pays the intermediary who disappears into the night and doesn't pay the trucker. So we're actively looking at a crime policy where a trucker could go on and in 40 seconds, $2 or $3, buy this coverage. So if he doesn't get paid, and then the freight broker's bond doesn't pay for the load that's been delivered, they can claim against our crime policy. So they will be used every transaction. And very attractive for small trucking companies. All right, so yes, Noah.
So I had two thoughts. One, you should probably get your actual user base to give you user interface feedback, because I don't drive a truck. Although my totally uninformed opinion is I haven't per line filled in a address without homicidal rage since Google rolled out Google Earth. So you might want to figure out how to hook into at least these boards that presumably have virtually all that information, so it's just automatically populated. But the second question I had, which you seem to kind of be into, is if you're getting down to sort of one day, one transaction type behaviors, is there a greater risk of fraud that might start exposing you to issues from your insurance carriers? Because with more ephemeral transactions, it becomes a lower cost transaction to pretend and con people and try to steal some money.
Yeah, great question, great observation. You want to take the first?
Yeah, I can take the first part of that. So we are talking to lots of different people. We're trying to get your all's feedback as well if anyone has. So yes, we're definitely talking to multiple different trucking companies, freight brokers to get user feedback, and also the load boards and things. Ideally, we live in the load board, and we can auto-populate all the information about the load into our system. So we have to type in all those different fields and just we click a button and do it with the insurance. And then the second part, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so also on the first part, we're integrating with companies that gather the data you're referring to. We're talking right now with a company called Central Analysis Bureau, which data mines registrations from the DMV and has a complete equipment list, including those long EIN numbers that will be painful for somebody to complete in this transaction. So the idea is we're going to be passing along the cost for non-CAB members, CAB members. CAB members will benefit from no longer having to complete the litany of questions that you're talking about. It will auto-populate. So that's the transition that we're doing. And all of this is why we did a raise, and we're very thankful for the grant we just got so that we can convert to Next.js. Now, with regard to the bad actors in the insurance, this is kind of, I'll answer that in two ways. First, big picture. We are unlike those competitors that Jake showed who are just selling insurance. So it's a proprietary software to sell their proprietary insurance. We're agnostic to what insurance product we sell. We feel like we'll scale bigger that way. So if you've got a relationship with an insurance agent that you are dealing with and you're a freight broker, you can use our system to use his insurance or her insurance and sell that and cover your truckers that way. But the other thing is in the system and in the services that we're providing now that we're using currently at my agency, we're doing what are called excess follow form. So our cargo and our auto liability are follow form after the primary insurance. So that's going to be the person that adjusts the claim and pays the first 100,000, for instance, on the cargo. That'll be the litmus test for coverage ability. And then we follow just with more limit. So all the terms and conditions on the primary policy follow through with ours. And that's not going to eliminate fraud. We've built some characteristics in here that made our insurance partners comfortable with what we're doing. So we've got the ability to block bad actors. We've got the ability to track loss frequency according to number of transactions. So in the insurance industry, in the trucking insurance industry, a loss frequency rate of 25% is acceptable. That's thumbnail, medium, expected range of losses. So on 10 transactions, if we have somebody that has their third loss, we then can block them from using the system anymore. And so we can track by user, by motor carrier, by freight broker, by driver, by unit, where the losses are coming from. So we've given some comfort to people that have given us the capacity that we're not going to burn them that way. And it's so far proven to be very accurate. Also, on the market, what we're selling now, it's not just us, right? So we don't have Crum & Forster as our current insurance partner. We're integrating with their system in their spot market and their spot market purchase group, which is thousands of people across the country. So the losses, first off, it's not your policy if you're a trucker that's going to have a loss. It's a member of a risk purchase group. So it will be diluted amongst thousands of participants.
All right, we have time, I think, for just one more.
Okay.
But then you can put up your contact information for more people to convey. We have this one.
Thank you. I'll make it quick.
If I have time, I'll go back.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be super quick. I had a couple though. So first, since the target population that you're going for is primarily mobile, is your web design focused more on like a desktop orientation, or is it incredibly mobile friendly? Because my first thought was that website on an iPhone is going to be a pain in my rear. So I'm assuming there's a mobile platform that it flips to.
We have, so it's set up to work at different responsive displays. This is iPhone XE, this is XR. It doesn't look great, but it works.
Okay, so that was kind of my first draw to it.
So to answer that, first off, most truck drivers, especially most small trucking companies, are utilizing a laptop in their cab. It's just normal the way they operate. They're actually running their entire business that way. But this is generally pushed out by the freight broker to the trucker, and he's typically just receiving that. So he can, if he were using, or he or she were using an iPhone or an Android, it would just be to pay.
That makes sense. And then my second was on those posting boards, like, is it possible for you to like sponsor certain posts and like offer like a bundleability like link for like an advertising type mentality for a smaller trucker, being like, do you want to upgrade the way your business functions? Click here to find out more, and then you can bundle the crime and
Absolutely.
general insurance.
Yeah, any potential investors out there, that's exactly why we're raising, so that we can create some brand identification, some education, and do some marketing. Yeah, one.
All right, you can go real quick, and then we gotta.
Challenge is divide.
Hey, good morning, guys. So it seems like you guys have a really good working prototype right now. So why are you investing engineering time in re-architecting with Next.js?
So the demo you saw today is in Next.js. The old one was vanilla JavaScript. It was really hard for us to get our arms around the projects. One file was 30,000 plus lines long, so it broke Git diff, so we couldn't see when we made changes to the file, it was actually changed. So that sort of prompted us to refactor, trying to use modules and like Webpack type stuff. It seemed like Next.js was easier.
Strategic integration is our quickest way to scale and get out there. So that was necessary to do the strategic
Yeah,
integration.
we want to publish NPM components and then have people, what's actually, yes, like, you should just hit NPM, I don't know what that's, but yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And then, I think your contact information is on that rotating slide. Is that right, guys? Was it? Okay. So there's a rotating slide with their contact information. If you have more thoughts for them, please do reach out to Jake and Harvey. While Philippe is getting set up, wanted to introduce our Crash and Learn speaker, just a very well-respected, very seasoned entrepreneur. Philippe is, let's see, background-wise, he actually is from New York City, grew up there. He holds an MBA, well, so he graduated with honors from Amherst College and then got his MBA in finance from Columbia University. He began his career as a consultant for Booz Allen Hamilton in their healthcare practice. He was the director of development at Pfizer in the medical products group. He was a founding partner of WestMed Venture Funds, which is a publicly traded venture capital company affiliated with CIBC Oppenheimer, which invested exclusively in life science and med tech companies. I'm only halfway done. Hold on. He's been the founder of several life sciences companies, and for 10 years, he was actually the director of entrepreneurship programs here at UVA's Darden Business School, where he ran entrepreneurship programs, taught, and founded the iLab, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. He's also been the entrepreneur resident at Northeastern University's Bouvet College of Health Sciences, and is currently a life science mentor at George Mason University's ICAP program. He is also a member of the Charlottesville Angel Network, a member of Mass Medical Angels. He owns CvilleTrep, where he is a family office advising entrepreneurs in startups, teaching and investing. He was actively involved in the founding of CIC, one of the sponsors of this event, and still is a group leader there. He served on the board of Wild Rock Nature Plant Discovery Center, TomTom, in its formative years, and this event, Charlottesville Entrepreneurs and Espresso. Actually, when I first started coming back in probably 2017, Philippe had been running it along with a couple of other people, and I somehow became in this role. It was an accident, but it's a lot of fun, and so it's been cool to kind of bring him back. He actually, fun fact, well, he's married with kids, but also drove cross country on a motorcycle back in 2017, which is just amazing, but really excited to hear from you. So please help me welcome Philippe Sommer.
Yes, okay. So a bunch of us started this a bunch of years ago on the idea that you learn from your mistakes more than you learn from anything else. And Crash and Learn was actually a course I used to teach at Darden. But a bunch of us started this, but I would love a round of applause for Hope, because without her, this wouldn't have kept going. She really kept this thing going for almost 10 years. So a quick plug for my current employer. I am a life science mentor at ICAP. ICAP is an NSF-funded and state of Virginia funded program to mentor startups. I'm one of 3 life science entrepreneurs or mentors. We have a dozen other people in tech and other specialties. For those of you who know about ICOR, ICAP was created on a very similar model just for everybody else. You didn't have to be an academic, but you have to be for ICOR. And it's affiliated with George Mason. So as Hope mentioned, I have a checkered past. And, you know, I listened to all those descriptions, and my only conclusion is, yeah, what she's saying is I'm old. I've done a lot of stuff, right? The longer you do this, the more you accumulate. So I started out as a corporate gorilla at Pfizer. I did M&A, and I and a couple of guys started a venture capital fund at Oppenheimer. So I became a vulture capitalist, finally. Then I became the crazy entrepreneur, and I'm going to talk today about Centec, and if we have time, Trocar. And then I did a real pivot and got out of the day-to-day business of running things and came to Darden in '05 to run the iLab, create the iLab, and run the entrepreneurship program and teach. And did that for 10 years, and I've basically been a mentor and an angel since. So my motto and a faculty member at Darden by the name of Saris talks about this. To be an entrepreneur, you want to fail often, you want to fail fast. On the average, most entrepreneurs succeed on their third try. So my attitude is hurry up and get 1 and 2 out of the way, fail, right? It's okay, you should do it, because that's how you learn how to do it right. And this is gonna be a story about how I learned how to do it right and still screwed it up. So I'm gonna talk about Semtech and about Trocar. So this was a company I started with a partner, Harvey, and we were trying to solve the problem that if you're a diabetic, you prick yourself many times a day just to find out where your glucose level is. So the holy grail in medicine for a long time has been a non-invasive blood glucose monitor. There are such things now. There are little sensors you can put on your arm, and you can use your phone and give you a glucose. But when we started this, and I don't like saying how long time ago it is, but it was a long time ago, there was nothing like this. So we found some technology at the University of Pittsburgh. There was a hydrogel. Hydrogel is what a contact lens is made out of. It's 90% water. But this hydrogel had an interesting property that it could change color depending on what it sensed. And in this case, we had it sensing glucose. And it turns out that in your eye, you have a little patch under your eyelid where it's already established. Pilocarpine is delivered this way. You wear that patch, it doesn't bother you. And our idea was to put this hydrogel in that little patch. And all you had to do to find out what your glucose level was pull down the patch, look at the color, and with a mirror, you could determine what was your glucose level, right? Was it high in the 300s, you were red, or was it low in the blues? The embodiment in the middle was another way we thought about doing it as a contact lens. It could be a part of a contact lens, but we really worked on the other one. So, the good stuff. We've done this right. I mean, I don't want to be modest, but we have. We licensed it from the University of Pittsburgh. It took us about 6 months to get a worldwide exclusive license. The university is easy to deal with, but they were great, actually, and they were actually a partial investor in our company. We were funded by Ben Franklin, which is the Pennsylvania version of the IPC. If you're familiar, the IPC is the sort of state funding for startups. We set an offsite lab, hired the scientist grad student who had developed the technology, so we had people who knew this stuff really well. And so we had arm's length funding. Now, the guy who invented this technology was a world-class expert. I mean, I had done a lot of due diligence. Nobody knew more about these hydrogels than this guy. Everybody said, he is the person you go talk to when you want to do this. Now, first thing you always have to do is determine as an entrepreneur, what's your affordable loss? Again, Sarasvati term of effectuation, what can you afford to lose? And what we know is good entrepreneurs are really good at making their affordable loss affordable, right? You don't go to the bank, you don't mortgage your house, you don't, make it such that if you fail, you're going to be bankrupt. You make your loss affordable. So what was my affordable loss in this case? I went to my wife and I said, look, I really want to do this. I don't want to focus on anything else. I'd earned pretty well. And I said, I want to take a year's savings and you won't be affected. My kids won't be affected. She was working, which was fortunate. And I'm gonna invest this into starting up this company. So what were our objectives? And by the way, feel free to ask questions anytime if I say something that doesn't make sense. It's funny, these things are supposed to, oh, they're not. Okay, never mind. All right, so what did we have to do? We had to determine, so we raised, I think, $500,000, set up this lab. We didn't pay ourselves, neither Harry nor I paid ourselves anything. All the money went towards the lab, funding some research at the university and paying for this postdoc. And then all the supplies that went with it. So $500,000 was a fair amount of money. We had to determine a number of things. First one was, are tears a good predictor of glucose? Nobody had ever demonstrated that the glucose in your tears correlates to glucose in your blood. And we did that. We actually demonstrated that was true. There's a time delay, 20 minutes between what the reading is in your blood and what the reading is in tears, but tears are an effective predictor of blood glucose or marker. Was the device sensitive enough? Could it pick up just glucose and not other things? We did that. Was it specific enough? Was it just glucose it was picking up? Sensitive is actually, could it measure low levels of glucose? Specificity is, could it just pick up glucose? And we did that. And then the third factor was salt. Your eye is salty. And it turns out that this hydrogel worked on a hydrostatic model. It would expand and contract and change the color it reflected based on how much glucose was loaded on the sensor. But once you put it in salt water, salt is a great conductor, and it really messed up the hydrostatic properties of this thing. So the last thing we have to do is figure out how to get it to work in salt. Didn't get it to work. Just worked perfectly in water. Now, some people have raised the question, I'll come back to it, why was the last thing you looked at and not the first thing you looked at? We'll talk about that. So do we keep going, right? We're now a year into this. We've done a whole bunch of things. Time to stop? Yes? Yes. Well, you're right, and I was wrong, because I wanted to keep going. We achieved 3 or 4 objectives. We still had a year of cash in the bank. So, I said, look, we're so close. And, I hear this from entrepreneurs all the time. We're so close. Yes, we've been doing it for 6 years, but we're so close. And I really felt that way. I was like, oh God, we just need to fix this. And this was a huge market. Non-invasive glucose monitoring is a huge business. There was no customer discovery issue. So somewhat begrudgingly, my wife agreed. And it's very important that you get your significant other to buy in. Entrepreneurs are narcissists. Entrepreneurs say, I want to start this business. I want to do this. I want to do that. But the fact of the matter is it affects a lot of people potentially around you. Kids, wife, husbands, significant other. Make sure they understand, because often they don't understand what they're getting themselves into. They love you, they trust you, you've had a good career. They can't quite imagine it's all going to fall apart. You need to be honest with them. So the bad stuff. We're 6 months into year 2. Now it's really a year and a half, because it took us 6 months before we funded it to get the license and get this thing going. And we're making no progress. Still not working. Do we keep going? Well, I was still going, oh, yes, we keep going. 9 months into year 2, we still had no solution to the salt problem. And at that point, my then wife said, you know, you're not being objective about this. And she was absolutely right. And my partner and I said, we really need to figure out what's going on here. So we hired a third party, scientific consultant who looked at all of the science against the objections of the founding scientists who didn't want anybody looking at his stuff. But we basically said, we're cutting you off unless you let this guy come in and he tells us he's looked at your science. And he basically came back and said, this is no longer a development project. This is an academic research project. He's trying all these different things to solve the problem, but he really has no idea how it's going to get solved. And at that point, we said, enough, we're going to stop this. This story does not have a happy ending. We ended up in somewhat, not litigious, but it got closed, situation with the founder, who of course was humiliated that his shiny startup had now failed. And, you know, he kept saying, well, you promised you were going to fund this to market. And I said, yeah, and you promised you were going to deliver a product that worked. And, you know, we never got much beyond that. It was complicated, it took a long time. We got sued by one of our 1099 employees who claimed he was really a W-2. That's a whole other story. So lessons, and any questions before I go to lessons learned? Sure, I'll repeat it. Well, so the question is, how are we supporting the research? Yeah. So we had money, we were funding this postdoc in our lab, and he was working with the scientists in the university. So they were trying different ways of negating the effect of salt. So lessons learned. We tend to believe what makes us happy. We had the world's expert on these type of crystals. We had graduate students who developed the technology. We had a huge market with many possible and other applications once this one was developed. And we had arm's length funding. I mean, it's like, what more could you want? It was really looking like a great deal. We should have brought in an outside expert sooner. I kind of wanted to believe this guy because he was such a credible player in this space. I mean, he had wild technology. He had a DARPA grant to create goggles made of this material. Apparently, one of the ways to blind a flyer is to shoot a laser beam at their eyes. And so the military wanted a set of goggles that would instantly block the laser beam, and this material could do it. So he was really unbelievably credible. And here I want to come back to the issue of academics have sometimes different agendas than you do. You know, he got, I think, some publications out of it. I can't certainly prove that this was the case, but it's unfortunate that we put the salt issue last and not first. And you would think if you were him and you understood the science, you might have wanted to put that one first. Of course, you wouldn't have spent as much money on funding this research. So I don't want to cast aspersions, but it was an interesting question we never really resolved. And again, make sure your significant other understands what's going on here. because they want to believe, they really do. And the probability is still fairly great. And I was in my 40s when we did this, so I'd seen a lot, and I think did a good job, but it doesn't always work out. Yes?
Research scientists would have equity stake in the startup.
He had equity. So the question was, would he behave differently if he had equity? Yes, he had equity. One could argue that his academic incentives, having someone fund his research towards a product, plus the ego boost of having a company that he started, may have outweighed the pragmatic view I had, which is how do we get to yes or no quickly? Yes. I'm sorry?
Assuming you figured out the salt issue, how do you know you had product market fit with the eye patch modality?
So, is anybody here a diabetic? No.
Is anyone diabetic?
No. All right. So diabetics are really unhappy at having to prick themselves. If you look at a diabetic's hand, they've got bumps all over their fingers. It's painful. The tips of your fingers are very sensitive, and it's really uncomfortable. This would not have been the definitive blood glucose measurement, but what it could do is it could tell you, are you too high or too low, or are you in a normal range? If you're in the normal range, you don't need to go prick yourself. If you're too high and you have to administer insulin, you'd still have to prick yourself. But we were absolutely convinced, and the fact that people have developed non-invasive blood glucose monitors subsequently shows there was absolutely a market for this. It's one of those, in medicine sometimes, it's like, well, if you can do it, if you can cure cancer, they will buy it. If you can do non-invasive glucose, they will buy it. Yeah.
Question about how the priorities were made at the time that those 4 items were collaborated on. Was the scientist leading that conversation, or were you?
He was.
Okay. So I see it now, my little light bulb went off. Do you think that having more of a panel board at that moment would have saved the project?
Yes.
Okay.
But the scientist was very reluctant to have other people looking at his stuff. Again, I don't want to go into chapter and verse, but that was an argument we had, and I finally gave in. And said, okay, we'll just go ahead. And
Did
remember,
he have IP property rights on the idea yet?
the university did.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to.
Yeah, tell us my subject.
So let me tell you about one more. This is a company we started not with the intention of running a business with licensing. This is a trocar. If you have abdominal cancer and they need to remove the cancer, they'll use a trocar, a device like this, to puncture a hole and then thread instruments through it to pull out the cancer. And what we found out is that, at this, oops, sorry. All right, never mind. The place where that trocar goes into the skin is the port site. That when you pull that out and the patient goes home, if the cancer recurs, it tends to recur at the hole, at the place where that port went in. And it's called port side recurrence. And there's a huge amount of literature out there about how port side recurrence is a big problem, and nobody really understood why. Why is it that the place you made the hole and went in is the place that the cancer comes back. And this professor at Yale had developed a theory, which he demonstrated. The reason it happens is that cancer cells get stuck between the port and the skin and kind of get pressed into the skin. So when you pull it out, the cancer cells are still there. And that's why port-side recurrence was a common problem. So we hired an engineer, we self-funded this, and he came up with a flushing port. So it had a cup on the top, so you would stick it in, and before you pulled it out, you would inflate the bottom. My hair doesn't quite do it. Yeah, there, you would inflate that piece, and then you would run water through the system, and it would flush the cells out from the hole. So it solved the problem, and then you would deflate the balloon and pull out the port. Again, good stuff. World-class scientists, Yale University, worldwide exclusive license. We had done a lot of interviews with docs and said, is port-side recurrence a problem? They all said yes. There was vast literature on this thing. We hired an engineer, he developed this great product. We had several universities that were agreeing to do an animal demonstration of this, and they did. And it was shown to work. And we, again, in this case, we're not trying to build a company, so we kind of self-funded this. Again, my partner Harry and I were able to do this. So our affordable loss was manageable. We didn't want to sell the company. We wanted to demonstrate feasibility, deliver a buildable design, and sell it to a company and collect royalties. Not a bad way to do business. Lower risk. So we did feasibility, we delivered a buildable design, and we showed that it worked. What do you think happened? Nobody bought it. We had several companies interested. They all thought this was a big issue. And when they did their due diligence, they determined that surgeons would not buy the product. Why? Why? Any guesses? I'm sorry? There's no incentive. Well, technically there is, because their patients come back with cancer. Now, you could be cynical and say, well, they get to do another procedure, but I don't think that wasn't the actual reason. Liability? Nope, that wasn't the reason either. I'm sorry? No, insurance, no, insurance would cover it. That was not the reason. Nope. I'll tell them. This was a failure in customer discovery, which is what I now do full-time at ICANN. So we went around and we asked doctors, is port-side recurrence a problem? And everybody said yes, because it is. What we should have asked is, what are your concerns in laparoscopic surgery, and see if port-side recurrence showed up in their top 3 or 5. And the answer is, it didn't. So, I mean, this is a really beautiful case of screwing up, in the sense that we asked the wrong question, right? And in customer discovery, you always have to start with, tell me about the last time, you did a laparoscopic surgery and it didn't turn out well. What would you wish would be different? And then you would have realized that port-side recurrence is not a big issue in their minds, even though it is in the real world. Which then still leaves the question, why is it not an issue in their minds? punchline. It's not a hair on fire problem, yes, that's how we refer to problems that are worth fixing, our hair on fire problems, because your hair's on fire, you're not gonna go, cook something or, fix your computer, you're gonna put your hair out on fire. Those are the best kind of startup projects. So they acknowledged that it's a problem, but it wasn't theirs because they were such a skilled surgeon. And in fact, what the corporation found out when they went and did their due diligence is that acknowledging that you had port-side recurrence in the head of the surgeon meant they had poor technique. So they wouldn't do it, or they wouldn't acknowledge it. The only other time I run into this was a case where we had a product for decubitus ulcers, not to finish, where there were bed sores. And I went to a hospital and I'm talking to nurses and I say, so tell me about your problems with bed sores. And they kept saying, oh, we don't have bed sores. It's not a problem.
Wasn't the guy that brought up like soap and water for surgeons because he discovered surgeons were murdering new mothers by going straight from the morgue to the delivery room? Like, did he have this problem? Isn't this?
Yeah,
like
it's not an uncommon problem.
Acknowledged.
And again,
Okay.
so when I went to nurses and I said, tell me about your decubitus ulcer, they'll say, we don't have a problem, which is weird because bed sores are a big problem in hospitals. And I went back to my office and I had a woman work for me, Mary Dolan, who was a nurse. And I said, I don't understand what's going on. And Mary was Irish and very blunt and said, you're an idiot. I said, why? He said, they're not going to tell you they have problems with bed sores. That reflects badly on them, that they haven't turned the patient over enough times. So she, as a nurse, went back, did the interviews, and got all the information. But it hadn't occurred to me that, people have egos, and they have egos about what they do. And you have to be careful, at least in medicine. But not just in medicine, in other things too. You have to really, when we do customer discovery, we ask the question, who is the saboteur? And the saboteur is the person whose lunch you're eating, right? So if you do, like our last guys, who is the saboteur in that? Does the insurance company have an incentive, or does somebody else have an incentive to say, hey, if we use you guys, and I'm not saying you do, but I'm saying a lot of businesses, you need to think about who is the person who has something to lose if you're successful, because they will come up and bite you, yes.
Yeah, that's a great point. We might have time for like one question. Is there anybody? Kind of ask as we go. Go ahead, Jamie. Yeah, he did. He just talked about his 2 failures. Remember what he said? Lose 2 and then you.
So the company I was involved with that was the most successful. It was successful for me. It was not successful in the market, which is really kind of ironic. We were an investor, and I was on the board of. I wasn't running a company, Hemosonics, and they had developed a way of tricking yeast into not making alcohol, but making hemoglobin. So they had these vats that in Colorado, it looked like a brewery. It was brewery equipment. Only you turn on the tap at the bottom, and this red goop came out, and it was all hemoglobin. And again, artificial blood is one of those holy grails in medicine. And we did a phase 1, we were into a phase 2, we took the company public. I was, I think, judicious in saying we've made a shitload of money here, let's get out. Some of my co-investors said, oh, no, this is gonna be even bigger let's stay in. And I had a boss many years ago who talking about expenses, had a great saying. He said, live well, but don't be a pig about it. And that was kind of my attitude. We made a lot of money and we needed to realize it and show our investors. Turned out that hemoglobin in its naked form, normally hemoglobin is encapsulated. What they were making was naked hemoglobin. In high doses is toxic. So we took the company public, I got out, and about a year later in a phase 3, they had a couple of people die. And that was the end of that project. But it was what, VCs talk about, a fun maker deal. It made up for an unbelievable number of bad deals. Thank you all.
Thank you, John. And then I think we might have, Amanda, we have him on a rotating slide too, if you want to get in touch with Philip. I know he's on LinkedIn and has his contact information as well. So that was great. Thank you both for sharing. And just as we conclude, we end with announcements. So what this looks like is if your organization is hiring or if there's an event you'd like people to know about, we have the opportunity to share that. And we'll start with our sponsoring entities first, and then we'll open the floor to you guys. So we will start with CVIC, Charlottesville Business Innovation Council, and we have Amanda. I'll pull up my notes here. I'm Amanda Laskowski. I'm the Deputy Director of the Charlottesville Business Innovation Council, known as CVIC. We're gonna try to keep it brief today. We have a lot going on this week with TomTom. So I'll take a moment to highlight some events on the Technology for Good track, and I'll take a breath. All right, so on Wednesday of this week at 11 a.m. at Common House, we have a panel called Sustainability via Innovation in the Built Environment. This is a primer for our flagship event that we are producing in October around sustainability and affordability in the built environment. So you'll come, get introduced to the subject matter. There's some great panelists. I have a one-pager out about that on some of the tables in back, where you can come ask me about it. Secondly, we wanted to highlight the Women on the Rise origin stories of 4 women investors. That's going to be at Vault, Virginia at 3:30 on Wednesday. And also Women on the Rise, women founder pitches at Vault 4:30 directly following. There's also the technology mixer at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And if you want a discount on your TomTom attendance, if you haven't already, we have the code CVIC together. That'll give you $20 off any track. I don't believe I have any other announcements. Oh yeah, gala. This is our second to last time seeing you before our gala. So our gala is in its 25th year. So we really hope you join us to celebrate innovation and all the good that's going on in our community around business, innovation, technology. We have awards for Innovator of the Year, Student Entrepreneur of the Year, Employer of the Year. So it's a really great celebration and a great dance party, good food, and we will be bringing back the photo booths as well, which is a favorite feature. So if you're interested in attending the gala and you've never attended before, come ask me about it. If you're interested in sponsoring, getting your name out there, we have a lot of packages available.
May 30th.
Pardon?
May 30th. Tell the date.
Oh yeah, it's May 30th, so you have 6 weeks. Make your plan, pick out your outfit. Thanks, so. Hello. Oh, wow, that's loud. My name is Shira Goldine. I am the events coordinator with the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center, or CVSBDC. A little bit about us. Back, that's better. We are a SBDC, restarting. We are part of a national network, America's SBDCs. It is an SBA program, so that's the Small Business Administration, that has over 1,000 or about 1,000 offices throughout the country. In Virginia, we have a state network with 27 offices throughout the state, and we offer free one-on-one business advising, training programs, and subject matter experts in just about anything you can imagine. Jay is staring at me and I'm feeling the pressure.
A couple highlights that folks in this room might be interested in: ICAP, which is the Innovation Commercialization Assistance Program, is a program available through our state office. Philip happens to be a mentor with ICAP. So that is great for tech-based high growth potential. Philip is one of the life science mentors. And so innovation companies, there's a big focus on customer discovery. It is similar to iCore, so going through that process. There's information about ICAP on our website. We also have specialty programs for international trade, craft beverage assistance. We have a cybersecurity expert. So just about anything you can think of, we either have an easily accessible expert or we can find one through our network. And an upcoming program, Rick, I'm really glad you're sitting there. You're a good reminder. We have Pitch Preview, which is a program that SBDC offers in partnership with the Charlottesville Angel Network. So that is an opportunity quarterly. So 4 times a year, we have 3 founders can pitch their business to a group of accredited angel investors, not for money, but for feedback. So it's a fantastic opportunity for anyone that's looking at getting into angel investment as a potential funding source for your business, to actually get to talk to a group of angel investors and get some super valuable feedback. I know there's at least a couple people in the room that have done that before, and we have a strong hold of the investors that have been part of it over here. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. The next opportunity is the first Thursday in May, whatever date that is, and the deadline to apply is, I want to say, April 25th, sometime around there, but it's on our calendar. The website is the end of my email address, cbsbdc.org. Good luck remembering that. And I think that's everything. I've got business cards at the back. If you can't remember our acronym, I understand.
Hi, I'm Hannah Deal. I'm Operations Coordinator at CIC, or Community Investment Collaborative. I feel like I might as well introduce myself as scatterbrained because I think we all are right now at the time of year. It is really busy. I would normally make some sort of quip without calling out the people who didn't register today, but I'm a little too tired for that, and I think things were a little bit glitchy, and most of you did register, so well done. Thanks for being here. I don't think I have much to announce today. I guess I'll start out with the CIC description for those of you who are new, but we're a nonprofit that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs, primarily focusing on underserved populations. And we have a 16-week workshop as one of our main offerings that happens twice per year. We also have financial management program, mentorship program, and we are the host organization of the SBDC. Yes, there are a million acronyms. We really should have like little note cards that we hand out for everyone. So the main 2 things I want to talk about are a resource fair that we have on May 8th. And that is essentially an opportunity for clients to get a lot of questions answered one-on-one, all in one go. So we have attorneys, marketing specialists, accountants, and more who are going to be there. It's a 4.5-hour event. And if anyone is interested in getting some free assistance, you can go to cicville.org, and I believe it's under what we do, resource fair. You can sign up for slots there. You can also email me. Emails up there. Share, remembering my business cards as always, so I have some in the back. And again, that's May 8th. Signups close, I think, the last day of April, I want to say. And then the other thing is we have a program called Launchpad, and this is for current SBDC or CIC clients. It probably doesn't apply to most people in here, but we have a partnership, a collaboration with both the Charlottesville City Market and the Farmers Market at Ix. And so if anyone here has been wanting to sell at the farmers market, who again is a current client, or you know someone who is, then I'm also helping to run that program. You should let me know. Otherwise, yeah, pitch competition is Wednesday. We're helping to run that. It's usually a lot of fun, and it's right here, so you already know how to get here. So hopefully we'll see some of you here. Thanks.
All right, we're gonna use mics for the rest. Do any of you have any announcements of events like you just heard about, or that your company is hiring?
Hi, everyone. Frank Squillace with Civil Solutions. I'm honored again to be back at the Tom Tom Festival as a speaker this Saturday morning at CvilleTrep Coffee at 9 a.m. My talk is called Finding Joy in Serving Others. It briefly focuses on all of the non-head stuff that we've been talking about all day, which is extremely important, but I focus on the heart stuff. How do you serve others if you don't have a good set of values, morals, ethics, and aren't taking care of yourself first? I have presented this for the past 15 years up and down the East Coast. It's a 50-minute fun interactive presentation. I'd love to see you there this Saturday morning, CvilleTrep Coffee, 9 a.m. as part of the Tom Tom Festival. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Who else? Anybody hiring? Okay, I will announce one. I'm a recruiter by profession, so I'll just do one. If you know anyone that is in operational finance, so finance space, maybe more operational than sales, it can be pretty green. 1-2 years of experience is fine for a wealth management company, fully remote. Would love to talk to you or refer somebody my way. And with that, we're done for April. We'll be back here the 3rd Tuesday of May. Really excited to see you right back here. Wanted to thank, again, Code-Based Co-working for sponsoring this space. And if you'd like a tour, Kendra is in the back. She's waving. If you'd like a tour of Code-Based, she will give you one. So can't wait to have you back here. Bring your friends in May and participate in Tom Tom, and have a great rest of your day.